Hey, welcome to Credit Makes Sense with Netiva, the Frugal CrediTnista, certified credit counselor, financial educator, and personal finance coach. I own the financial education services firm, M&H Financial Services, where we help women and couples just like you to master their money, destroy their debts, and soar their credit scores. So today I want to talk to you guys about something that a lot of my newbies who are just getting started building or rebuilding their credit ask me, which is how should I be paying this credit card bill each month? When they're posting in different Facebook group and financial forums, they get a ton of different answers and it's going into overwhelm and confusion. So I thought I'd do this quick video to help my partners out. So the four things that I want you to know is what your billing cycle is, how long it is primarily, when your due date is, because you want to definitely pay before or on the due date, when they report your balance to the credit bureaus, and what your minimum payment amount is. That can vary according to your balance, but you want to know what it is so you don't have to deal with any additional fees and you don't have to deal with any derogatory information reporting to the credit bureaus. So I have this little timeline here just to kind of provide more information. The first thing I want to go over is your billing cycle. In this example, the billing cycle is from February 14th to March 14th. So February 15th, rather, to March 14th. And a billing cycle is literally just the amount of time between your bills, your billing statements. That's all it is. So the amount of time between your billing statements and what type of credit card activity has occurred within that time frame. So let me back up and say that your billing cycle does not have to be a flat 30 days. Your billing cycle can be anywhere from 20 days to 45 days. It all depends on who your credit card provider is and the type of card, the type of account that you actually have with them. But for this example, just for simplicity's sake, it is from February 15th to March 14th. This billing cycle is going to include everything, charges, payments, credits, debits, etc., that applies to this particular billing cycle. If you had a balance from January that was left unpaid, then that is going to start the February 15th billing cycle with that balance, okay? So February 15th to March 14th is your billing cycle. When your billing cycle closes on the 14th, you're going to receive a billing statement. Usually a couple of days after that, whatever balance was on your credit card on March 14th, that balance is going to be reported to the credit bureaus. That balance is going to be reported to the credit bureaus, okay? So then you have your grace period. By law, credit card providers have to give you at least 21 days between the date that your statement cuts and to your due date. So I know some grace periods I know like Capital One usually have about a 24 or 25-day grace period. So sometimes you get a little bit more extra time, again, depending on who your credit card provider is. But that gives you essentially 21 days minimum, no matter what card you have, to make your payment. So a lot of people have asked me, when should I pay it? I don't believe in paying it on the due date. I would rather you pay it before the due date. That way, if anything happens between those 21 and 25 days, you can take care of it. What do I mean by anything happening? That means if something happens with their systems, if you try to pay it online, you can catch it well before the due date, and any additional fees may happen. If anything with your own bank, something not going through, a glitch, etc., you can catch that. And then I also want you to start working in a set date based on your budget and not based on when their due date is. Due dates can always be changed. They're not inflexible. They're very flexible. So once you work out a budget first and then determine based on when you get paid, when it would be best to pay the bill, I do that. That way you're in control of your finances versus letting them dictate when they want to get paid. This is about, or personal finance is about you and your personal finances. So I would rather you create your budget. I get paid on, I don't know, the 1st and the 15th. The 11th doesn't really work with me, but I think if I can bump it up to the 15th or 16th, then I can rock with that. That works for you. So I'm giving you that example. Now, another thing that I mentioned is the news cycle begins. So the news cycle begins immediately on the 15th in March. And if you notice, you don't pay for February's billing cycle until almost the end of March's billing cycle. And a lot of people ask me for credit reporting situations, when would it be considered late? If I paid after the 11th, if I paid on the 12th and the 13th, would that be reported to the credit bureaus? I'm hoping you never have to encounter this as a credit counselor, okay? I'm hoping you never have to encounter this. But the answer is no. You would be 30 days late, so not counting the 21 grace period. So if you do 21 days plus 30, you have 51 days that you would have to be late before it reports to the credit bureau. So that's plenty of time to work out whatever arrangements you need to make with the credit card provider in order to ensure that this does not report late. So again, your billing cycle runs anywhere from 20 to 45 days. A billing cycle is simply the amount of time in between your billing statements. And you're not required to make a payment until 21 days minimum after your billing cycle close. Whatever balance is on your credit card on March 14th, in this example, that is what is going to get reported to the credit bureaus. Okay, so let's go to the next example. So now we're going to talk about how to avoid paying interest. Essentially, if you make a payment on your credit card bill anytime before the due date passes, you're going to not pay interest. You can avoid interest, and this is with most cards. So you can either pay it in full, either before or on the due date. Now notice I didn't say pay on it. You have to pay it in full. So that means if it's February 15th, you carried over a balance into March 15th's billing cycle. So for the February billing cycle, it included a balance from January and February's charges. In order to avoid interest on all of that, you would have to pay both months, essentially the whole thing, off before the April due date. All right, so that's how you avoid paying interest on credit card balances. So for those of you in any of my classes, my Credit on Fire membership, or in my free Community Credit Makes Sense, I always talk about building credit without the debt. One of the reasons why I don't like for many of you to play the travel point game or the cashback rewards game is because I like to teach you to focus on budgeting first, mastering that, then getting into the rewards game, because you really have to be careful about not being solely focused on the miles and the points and the cash back, that you lose sight of the interest that you're being charged, and potentially leaving balances over to the next billing cycle. You want to play the point game in a way that fits your budget so that you can make sure when that billing cycle closes, your grace period begins, that the balance is going to be paid in full before your due date, preferably, or at least on your due date, so that interest rates are not charged on there. So it's essential that if you're going to play the point game, that your that your budget is on point and that you're able to pay the entire balance in full. So this also means that if you are the type of person that's using credit for miles, for cash rewards, for points, that you make payments in between the billing cycle. So that means if you charge something on February 20th, you get paid on the 30th of February. There is no 30th of February. On the 28th of February, then you're going to make a payment maybe on March 1st. It's going to take care of that. And let's say you did another charge on the 7th of March. You know that your billing cycle ends on the 14th. You're going to make sure that balance is paid on the 12th. And then when the billing cycle closes on the 14th, you're going to say, okay, well, what's left on here? I have 21 days to pay it. That's my grace period before interest is charged. Or I'm going to pay it on the due date, which is on April 11th. That doesn't make sense, definitely make a post below and let me know. But the main key is how to avoid interest. Now we're going to go into credit reporting and utilization next. To keep your credit utilization low, this is up to 30% of your credit score. So this is essential, okay? This is something that a lot of my more established credit users tend to not mind so much, because they get so caught up in the travel rewards that they don't really focus on the utilization and how it's negatively impacting their credit scores. This is also one of the reasons why I don't like my newbies to use credit as an extension of their income. I like for you guys to literally just keep your charges between 1 and 7%, pay it off in full when you get the statement or well before your due date, and focus on using credit as a tool and not as an extension of your income. As you get used to that, then you're going to start playing the rewards and the travel and all of that good stuff game. Until then, don't do it. Everybody else who's more established and used to using credit, if you are playing the rewards and the miles and the cash back and all of that good stuff, you're just going to make sure that any balances that you have reporting, that you're going to make a payment before the billing cycle ends. My preference, March 13th. Don't even wait till the 14th. You want to make sure that you are like a couple of days before that billing cycle ends. You don't want any drama, so that a very low amount gets reported to the credit bureaus. So another mistake that I see those who are well established do as far as in using credit is that they pay the whole thing off before the billing cycle and then zero reports. And then they come to me and say, okay, Netiva, I don't understand why my credit is so low. I mean, I'm using my credit card. I'm paying it completely off. I don't get it. What gives? Well, the reason is because zero is not good. $0 reporting. Remember, your balance reports once your billing cycle ends. So if you pay off everything to zero by March 14th, then that means $0 is going to report to the credit bureau, and you're going to lose a ton of points in that credit utilization area that I mentioned was the 30%. It's one of the highest areas of your FICO scores. So you want to leave just a little bit, anywhere between 1 and 7% of the credit limit. I always say under 10%, same thing applies, so that at least something reports credit-wise and is going to do wonders for your credit. A lot of people will tell you 30%, you actually lose points at 30%. Per FICO even, anything around the 1% mark is best as far as increasing your credit scores. I found for me personally that right around 5%, 3 to 5% works for me. Some of my other clients, right around 5 to 7% works for them. I typically don't take any of my students or my clients above 7%. My newbies, those who are brand new, I found that 1% works for them credit-wise, but if they're looking to get increases, kind of pushing it towards that 7% works better, because the credit card provider wants to see that you're actually using credit, and they're not going to give you good increases if you're not using it. So that was a mouthful. Again, if you have any questions, I'm going to leave my contact information so that you can ask questions and get your burning credit questions answered. All right, so how does your monthly payment apply? This is another popular question that I get. Hopefully you're paying in full. You're taking all of that lovely advice that I just gave you. But just in case life happens, you need to pay that minimum monthly payment. How is it applied? Well, it's going to go to your interest first, and then after interest, it's going to go to your balance. Now, if you happen to have a 0% balance transfer card, it's going to go balance transfer card. So, okay, let me back up. So if you have a card that contains both regular interest on it, so let's say this is actually a student of mine's. She has a balance of $5,561.86. Part of this, as you can see with the interest rate, is actually charges, okay? And the other part of it is balance transfer. So if she was to make the minimum monthly payment, is that even listed on here? No, it's not, but I think it was like $89 or something like that. So no, 77 right there where it says payment. So if she was going to make the $77 payment, $30.32 will be applied towards the interest, and the overage would go to the 0%. If she was going to pay $107, then the $30.32 will be subtracted, and then the remainder of up to $77 will go to the balance transfer amounts, and then the other $30 would be applied to the interest balance, the balance that's accruing interest. Let me back up. That was a mouthful. And if you're in my Credit on Fire Academy, we're actually going to have a class on this so that you guys can get really, really adept at paying down your balances. So if you're in Credit on Fire and you're paying paying your debts down, and a lot of it is credit card balances, we're going to take this a little bit slower so that you can create your debt list and create a more effective and money saving debt payoff plan. So your minimum monthly amount is $77. Once $30.32 is subtracted, that overage is going to go to your 0% balance transfer card. So I'm actually doing this with a calculator. So that means $46.68 is going to go to the 0% balance transfer balance. The balance that does not, so let's say we made a $107 payment. So the $30.32 is going to go to the interest. Let me actually do this with you. Minus $30.32. That's going to, and then the $46 and some change is going to go to the 0%, and then the $30 is going to go to the balance that is accruing interest. So one of the things that for those who are paying off their debts, you kind of want to do your debt list to include any balance transfers when they expire, and that's going to determine how you're going to pay off what debt and in what order. So this is a mouthful. It's not something that's super easy for people to understand. One of the things I want you to remember is that your credit card due date is going to be on the same date every month unless you change it. So that should be really good for those of you who are creating a budget around your bills. You can always change, I shouldn't say always, in most cases, you can change when your due date is. On most unsecured credit cards, you can save on interest by paying the balance off in full. The only time that that's going to differ is if you have a subprime card like First Premier or Credit One, where as soon as that balance that you charge post, you start accruing interest at that moment. So that's the only time that does not apply. And then also we talked about credit reporting. That happens once a month. Like very, 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 very few credit card providers will report, unless it's a change, but they'll report more than once a month. So that means that anything that you did previously isn't reported until almost a month later, depending on when it happened. So hopefully that'll help you guys out a little bit. I know you may have some questions on this, so I'm leaving the link to my free online community, Credit Makes Sense, creditmakesense.me, creditmakesense.me. And if you are wanting to be a part of my epic Credit on Fire Members Club, this is where we're teaching you how to repair, restore, rebuild, and transform your credit score so that you can leverage it to create wealth. We're talking things like this, just like this video, as well as my additional videos, how to tackle items on your credit report, how to pay your credit card, how to quickly build credit, how to purchase your home by leveraging your credit scores, how to fire up your budget, how to fire your debts, how to invest in real estate. We're covering it all. You can join us here, creditonfire.us, creditonfire.us. And of course, if you're looking for me to coach you personally on accomplishing any of your personal credit goals, you can go to soarmyscores.com, soarmyscores.com. Hopefully this information was helpful for you. And again, if you have any questions, you can reach out underneath this video. Feel free to subscribe and share. Greatly appreciate it. And I will chat with you on our next video. Bye-bye.